It's character spotlight time. Thunderball is one of the Sean Connery Bond movies that most people really like. The underwater photography was spectacular and the plot line was believable. And the cast was terrific, which includes our character spotlight on Fiona Volpe in a stellar performance by Luciana Paluzzi. Hi, this is Dan
And Tom.
of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our show Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Join us as we shine the light on one of the best female baddies in the whole James Bond series. So, let's swing that character spotlight around to Fiona Volpe.
Now, this is going to be a longer episode than our Quarrel or Odd Job or Rosa Klebb spotlights, as Fiona's in a lot more of the movie than those other three were in Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger. We need to do her justice. It's going to take us some time to do it.
As James Bond foes go, Fiona Volpe is one of the strongest, toughest foes Bond has met. She's charismatic, intelligent, and ruthless, and she never wavers from her quest and the assassin work that she must do for Spectre.
Now, Luciana Paluzzi first auditioned for the role of Domino. Her character, Fiona Volpe, wasn't even in the novel, and in the screenplay, Fiona was originally an Irish woman, Fiona Kelly, but they changed her name and ethnicity to match Luciana's Italian heritage. We'll have more on this later.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go through the scenes. Scene 1 is Derval, Angelo, and Lippe. All right, from her very first scene in the room with Major Derval, when she's in bed with him, she is all business and exudes the confidence we see in her character in the rest of Thunderball. She looks sexy and in control. Her red hair is flowing down, and you can tell she is in charge. Derval gets the call that he must leave.
Major Deval's social secretary.
I would like to speak to Mr. Angelo.
What's that?
Mr. Angelo.
I'm sorry, you got the wrong number.
You'll be here when I come back?
Mm-hmm.
But I may not be in the mood then.
Do you want to bet?
You know you're Francois, eh?
I know me.
That's the Fiona we love. All right. That's her character. And now we see it for the first time in Thunderball. Now, she could have just said yes and let him go, right? No. She says, I know me. That one line, while she's playing with her hair, tells us all we need to know about Fiona Volpe. She is tough, confident, and a take-charge woman. She's strategic and manipulative. She completely overshadows Derval, a contrast in representations of power.
Yeah, now, Dan, you just mentioned she was playing with her hair.
Yeah.
And quite often when a person plays with their hair, it can mean a few different things. One, she's attracted to someone, so she may instinctively touch or arrange her hair to boost her appeal and make herself look sexier and more desirable. It's a sign of flirtation. In some cultures, long hair symbolizes femininity and purity, while in others it represents freedom and rebellion. This links with Volpe exactly.
Yeah. Now, the second interpretation is that it can be a sign of nervousness or anxiety, a self-soothing kind of behavior. Now, we know she's not nervous in this scene. She's in complete control. So she's definitely playing with Derval and his ego and desires and showing him that she is attracted to him. She wants to show that.
Yeah, and hats off to the director and the writers for putting this in. It creates a whole new dimension to the scene. It's a very simple scene. Now, there's another great piece of acting and directing when she kisses Derval goodbye and says,
Happy landing.
Thank you. Be good. At least until I get back.
Yeah.
So, a little playful there, happy landing. She knows where he's going to be landing in a second. And she quickly turns and looks at the door. A slight hint to us, the viewer, that something might happen with that door.
Yeah.
And another indication that she knows exactly what she's doing. Watch for this. It's easy to miss.
Yes, exactly. Now, how tough is she? When the door opens and there's a double of Derval on the other side, the real Derval gets gassed to death. Well, then Lippe enters, and who is in control?
Shut that door. Is that all right? Lippy, you take over. Are the doctor and ambulance outside?
Everything as arranged.
So there you go. She's in control absolutely and immediately when Lippe comes in. Fantastic move. And this tells us everything we need to know again about Fiona. She is in charge. She barks out for Lippy to take over and asks if the doctor and ambulance are outside. We just heard it. She knows the plan. She's executing the plan and is checking on Lippy to make sure he knows what he is doing. Wow. Strong, strong, strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's Fiona Volpe who hands Angelo his breathing mask and the killer gamma gas that he will use when he hijacks the plane with the 2 atomic missiles aboard. The same gas he used to kill Derval.
She's telling him what to do because she's in charge.
Angelo, your breathing equipment. Isolate you from the oxygen supply. Gamma gas, instantaneous, type you just used. And most important,
Fiona hands Angelo $100,000, but he wants more all of a sudden.
Not enough. $100,000 is not enough.
what are you trying to say?
Make it $250,000. Or get someone else.
There is no one else.
The look on her face is brilliant.
Yes.
Fiona's eyes are wide open and she's just staring directly at Angelo. You can see she's trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah. Pay attention to that. What she does with her face throughout this movie is fantastic. Then Lippy pulls a gun on him, and Fiona jumps in control again. She tells Lippy to put that away.
Angelo's right. I'll inform number one we made a new arrangement. This is merely a down payment.
But she knows Angelo is the only way this mission's going to work. This is 2 years of plastic surgery, learning Derval's voice and moves. She knows that she cannot complete this mission without Angelo, and so does he, which is why he asked for more money. But for now, she just says he's right. Again, for now.
For now, right. Wow. So she shows she's a quick thinker, too. She's solving the immediate problem, getting Angelo to hijack the plane and deliver the bombs to Largo. After Angelo gets Derval's watch and identification disc, he's ready to go.
Yeah, so next, Fiona shows how she pays attention to the details. Because Angelo makes a mistake here, and she has to correct him on it.
Au revoir.
No. He always says ciao.
Ciao.
And a cap. It's too far back on your head.
She clearly knows the ins and outs of this mission. She's a professional just doing her job and doing it well.
Yeah, she knows all the details. She is in absolute control here. There are so many clues that we get from this one scene that show how good Fiona Volpe is at being bad. Brilliantly written and brilliantly played. So Fiona has succeeded in the short term. Now she must deal with Derval. You know, the corpse. Again, she takes control.
Come on, get him to his pajamas.
All right, so she says they got to put the pajamas on him. Then she starts to wrap his face. She's taking charge of the situation. But this is Derval, the guy she was just in bed with a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
She is ruthless.
She is ruthless. Excellent. Before we go on to our next scene, we want to give a shout out to some of our listeners who have recently given us feedback on some of our podcast episodes. So a big shout out to Stephen Salzman, Harry's son, who just loved our You Only Live Thrice episode. Pietro Rossi, Baldwin Collins, Bill Canis, Jim Phelps, Lorenzo Granger, and Enrico Tang. Thanks. Keep the feedback coming. We love it.
Yeah, we absolutely do.
All right, let's move on to scene 2, Tom.
Okay, so the next time we see Fiona is when she's following orders from number one, as she seems to be part of the execution branch that number one wanted contacted concerning Lippe, who number one was not pleased with.
Ooh.
So Fiona Volpe is riding her motorcycle, trailing both Bond and Lippe, who have both just left Shrublands.
She looks great clad in leather on the gold motorcycle.
She looks great clad in anything, Dan.
Yeah. We had a great time talking to her too in our episode with her. She's a great combination of beauty and deadly prowess. And Lippe is shooting at Bond, and then Fiona fires from her motorcycle at Lippe's car.
Wait, not a Bond?
And it bursts into flames and crashes. Part of the execution squad, probably, huh?
That's part of the execution squad. We just didn't know who she was going to execute.
Yeah.
Either that or she made a mistake, and so far she hasn't made any mistakes.
Yeah.
And then we see the motorcycle stop. The rider gets off, dumps the motorcycle into a body of water to get rid of the evidence, and takes the helmet off. And we see it is indeed Fiona Volpe. It was just a person riding on a motorcycle. We weren't quite sure. She shakes her beautiful red hair loose. She looks stern and determined and walks away. She just killed Lippe. Man, Spectre's a tough place to work. Remember Kronstein from In Russia with Love?
Yeah, they are tough. I think with Spectre, their motto should be, with Spectre, you have a job for life. You just don't know how long you'll live.
Now, Dan, if you remember when we interviewed Luciana Paluzzi, she told us about how important this scene was to her life.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, her husband, Michael, has good taste. He was smitten when he saw this scene. Can you play that part of the interview, Tom?
When I pushed the motorcycle into the lake.
Yep.
Okay, my
Stunning,
husband says to this day that he fell in love with me, saw the movie, and he said, Mamma mia, that's the woman for me. When he saw that, when I took off the helmet. But he always tells the story that was his favorite. When I take off the helmet and I shave my
Look at that.
red
See?
hair, he said, that's the woman for me.
That's a great story.
And they've been married for 45 years, so getting smitten from this scene, it's had a lasting effect on them.
Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, let's go to scene 3. The next we see Fiona Volpe is when she picks up Bond in her blue convertible Mustang after his underwater adventures looking at Largo's boat, the Disco Volante. This little scene is great in building up Fiona's character even more for us, and it gives us some great linguistic games between the two of them.
They're cunning linguists. Right.
Yeah.
Now, so Bond comes out on the road, and it's evening, and the first car that comes along is a Mustang with Fiona Volpe driving. Now, let's examine her interaction with Bond here. Is she intimidated?
Can I have a lift?
Sure.
Thank you. You've just about saved my life.
Really?
Fiona looks him over as he gets in the car. Watch her eyes here. They dart up and down on Bond's body. But when he says, you just about saved my life, she quickly darts her eyes up and down on him again and says, really? In such a controlled voice, as if to say, well, that won't be for long. Now, does she know this is Bond here? She did chase his car and Lippe's car, but does she know who he is here? That's a good question. Then we get a great double entendre from James Bond. This interaction between them all through this ride is great. Bond asks a very provocative question.
How far do you go?
Wow, talk about direct. And again, she turns to him. Her eyes are blazing. She knows exactly what she means. She blinks, turns her eyes back to the road, and then replies with another good line.
You better fasten your safety belt.
Just great. How far do you go? Well, fasten your safety belt. You're going to find out.
You're going for a ride.
Yeah, I mean, this banter here is great. Each of them showing that so far, neither is intimidated by the other, and each can hold their own with this provocative talk. In fact, all of their scenes are a great watch, full of tension and seduction, showcasing a dynamic that is both adversarial and flirtatious.
Yeah, but then Fiona takes it up a notch. She starts speeding with that cool Mustang, and Bond looks a bit nervous. After all, his life is in her hands, and he had just said to her, you just about saved my life when he was coming out of the water onto the road. Now she's threatening it.
Well, she did ask him to make sure he had a safety belt on.
Yeah. Now she asks him his name here.
What's your name?
James Bond.
Fiona Volpe.
I like how she blinks at the word Bond. Watch that again. She blinks at the word Bond. She may be thinking, I have him. When she tells him who she really is too, Fiona Volpe, she pronounces it Volpe.
Now, if that's Italian and it's spelled with an E at the end, shouldn't it be Volpe?
It should be Volpe.
I mean, we should have asked Luciana about that when we talked to her. Oh, well, missed that one.
Yeah. Well, we're going to say Volpe.
Now, this is a good time to point out that in Italian, the name Volpe is the word for fox. And that's a great name for this sly character. She's a red-haired fox.
Yes.
Also notice that when Bond tells her his name, he just says James Bond, not Bond James Bond. We'll talk about the way he introduces himself later when we talk about a scene later in this episode.
Yeah. Then with both of her hands on the wheel and the speedometer now hitting 90 miles per hour, Bond is looking at her, and she looks at him quickly and smiles. Luciana, as an actor, has absolute control of her eyes here. Her eyes say just about as much as her dialogue. That is how good she is acting with her eyes. Just watch them throughout this scene. It's magnificent what she does.
I agree with you. And this interplay raises questions about power dynamics between genders. While Bond is in control and dominant, Volpe's agility, intelligence, and cunning give us her form of power.
Then Bond notices the huge Spectre octopus ring on her finger.
How could you miss it?
I mean, okay. Let's put our logo everywhere. He knows Spectre.
Hey, we have our logo on our shirts.
Yeah. That's different. He knows Spectre. He toyed with that word with Largo at the casino when he was saying he saw a specter of defeat on his shoulder. So now he sees the ring. You can hardly miss the Spectre ring. It's gigantic. It's huge. The round surface with the octopus being probably 2 of her fingers in width. Yeah, there's a good stealth protocol here. Nice job, Spectre. Man.
Really?
I wonder sometimes. To recover from her blatantly wearing this obvious Spectre ring, as she notices him looking, she quickly turns the ring around with her right hand so that just the band shows, and the Spectre logo is now in her hand.
Well, for someone so clever and for an organization so clever, they must stop brandishing their logo in public. Yeah, we show our logo on our shirts, but we're not trying to do anything bad.
Yeah, and as she turns the ring, she smiles, but then her mouth tightens up, almost into a grimace like, oh, what did I do here? Now, watch for this as we're talking about it. It is a telling sign that, hey, maybe she is a little vulnerable. Maybe she's not perfect in her badness.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. She saw him look at the ring from the corner of her eye. She's very observant. Well, sometimes. We'll talk more about that later.
Yeah.
Then we get another fun Bond quip with some nice repartee between the two of them. Just after they go screeching around this curve at a high speed, Bond appears a bit nervous and asks a question and gives us this banter.
Fly here often?
Do I make you nervous?
No, it's just that I have no desire to be capsized twice in one night.
At least you won't have to swim ashore.
This makes us think Bond is now very suspicious, but her reckless driving is a danger to them both, really. So Bond will calm down eventually. But to his last line, she tells him, smirking, examine her face while she's saying this. At least you won't have to swim ashore. I mean, come on. That's a great line with lots of hidden meanings.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way she does it, her face is cocky. She's telling Bond, I am in control here. Like, no matter what Bond says, she's got an immediate comeback. She delivers her lines vocally and facially with her eyes, mouth, and smile. Just wow, just really good.
Yeah.
And they're in the car. So all we're seeing for the most part is chest up. So the actors have to use their faces well. And Luciana Paluzzi does in this scene.
Yeah. And they chat a bit more. And again, Fiona is in control. And then Bond asks,
This is the road to Nassau.
Yes. Eventually.
Eventually? That is the one line that really shows that she has been in control the entire time. Yeah. It's almost like she's saying, you will get there when I am finished playing with you. or
The fox
whatever.
wants to play.
Yeah. They show us more of the speedometer hitting 100 now, and Fiona seems to be liking this. And I could say, yeah, it's a Mustang, but Mustangs, even back then, they could hit 100 miles an hour. I know, I had one.
Yeah, you did have one back then. You miss that car, don't you?
Yeah, I did over 100 with that car once. All right.
I think I was 4 when you got that car.
All right. Enough of that. Now, when she screeches to a halt in front of their hotel, finally answering Bond's earlier question.
Well, this is as far as I go.
Yes, me too. This is my hotel.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, so convenient.
That's as far as I go. Look at her face there. Look at her face when she's saying this. On the quip-o-meter, Fiona is winning. When they both get out of the car, we get one more exchange of quips, and she starts by saying,
You look pale, Mr. Bond. I hope I didn't frighten you.
I see, I've always been a nervous passenger.
Now, what Bond says there may actually be true, because then Bond is not in control. He may be revealing a trait here, but then she says,
Some men just don't like to be driven.
No, some men just don't like to be taken for a ride.
Now, what did she mean by that driven? Like driven in a car? Or driven like being focused on your life and achieving certain things? Missions, for example? I'm not sure. Can there be any other hidden meaning there? I mean, I'm not sure. It is a great line.
Yeah, he doesn't like to be taken for a ride, though. Okay, I don't know. We'll see. All right, lots of meanings in Bond's lines as well. Like, I saw your Spectre ring. I suspect who you are. And you're pretending to be someone or something else. I've been taken for a ride. Or it could mean other things as well. This scene with Fiona Volpe and Bond ends when they walk into the hotel. But it's a great scene. The quips are terrific. And they both deliver punching at each other. Boom.
And it's a great preview for us of Fiona and her interactions with James Bond. We've seen 4 distinct parts of her character so far, and we're only about halfway through the movie. In the first scene, we see her as a voluptuous lover. Then she turns into a person in charge of a tough situation. Then we saw her as a murderer. And finally here, she's very good with the witticisms and remains in control. So for me, this is a great build-up to get to know her character. There's not a lot of her backstory, but her personality is being developed for us and revealed for us as we move through these scenes.
Yeah, great writing and great delivery of the lines and acting by Luciana. Fiona is a complex character, and Luciana Paluzzi plays her well. All right, scene 4, Palmyra. Oh yeah, we're going there. We next see Fiona Volpe at Palmyra, Largo's retreat with the shark pools and more. They're skeet shooting, Largo and Fiona. We see a different side of Fiona here, and the scene starts with her reacting to what Largo says about being watched.
Of course they are watching us, my dear. What else have they to do?
I mean, they realize they're being watched, and Fiona looks back at Largo. She has a cigarette in her mouth and then takes it out, leaving it in her hand. And so she says to Largo,
You would like Bond dead.
I can think of no better arrangement.
But here we see a little bit more depth to Fiona. First, she seems more at ease with Largo than the other men she's interacted with.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says to Largo,
Because he tries to make love to your woman.
and she stands toe-to-toe with Largo, number 2 inspector. And as she says, your woman, she nods in one direction while simultaneously pointing, then flicking her cigarette in the same direction. She's almost dismissive of Largo.
I love the way she does that.
Oh, man. Again, perfect execution of her lines, the cigarette flicking, and standing face to face, toe to toe with Largo.
And she's really giving it to him here. She says, trying to make love to your woman? I mean, is she trying to say that she and Bond didn't do it? At this point in the movie, it's true, but it's a telling statement that she can get away with that and say that to Largo.
Yeah.
And I wonder what she would have told Largo if they had slept together. So maybe later in the movie. Yet Largo's response to her is all business. Why does he want James Bond killed?
Because he is Bond, and as an enemy of Spectre, should be killed.
Mark!
What I love there, you can hear it in the audio, is she calls for a skeet and she shoots the skeet. she continues to almost be dismissive of Largo. He's still talking. And she turns away and hits her first target with the gun.
Yeah.
It also shows us she's a good shot.
Yes. And that maybe Bond's fate is in good hands with her because Largo wants him dead. Now, she really lets Largo have it. Tough-faced, confident, she rebukes Largo by saying,
If Bond had died last night as a result of your hastiness, his government would have known for certain the bombs are here.
Result of your hastiness. Ooh. And the great part of this delivery, good directing, good acting. When she says, as a result of your hastiness, she's looking right at Largo. She is one tough Spectre agent. She's not scared of Largo and considers herself an equal to him.
The fact that she isn't afraid to get in Largo's face shows us who's in charge here. She has power over Largo, yet he's number 2 Inspector.
And she adds a great revealing line here.
When the time is right, he will be killed. Pull! I shall kill him.
Okay, call me impressed. Luciana Paluzzi is playing Fiona Volpe to the max. And really, she was in control with Derval, Angelo, Lippe, Bond, and now with Largo. This may be the toughest female opponent Bond has faced ever on the silver screen. Man, she is max out.
Yeah, she is. And she also gives us a little warning that she's going to kill Bond.
Yeah.
And that wraps up the scene with Bond flying in the helicopter with Felix Leiter, buzzing Palmyra, and Bond says that's going to be his next call. But that's not Fiona's next call. The next call is scene 5 in a hotel suite with Paula.
Yeah, the next time we see Fiona, she walks into James Bond's hotel suite, and Paula is there. Watch how Fiona jiggles the room key threateningly. Again, asserting control, this time with Paula. Now, Paula Chaplin is portrayed by the wonderful Martine Beswick, who had a previous role as a gypsy in From Russia with Love. And also watch how these two stare each other down the whole time. Two highly skilled, confident women in a showdown. This is good.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
Our Mr. Bond must have a very high opinion of himself.
Opinion?
Yes. He has a date with me, too.
I can't Excuse me.
So Fiona walks into the situation. She only shows she's flustered for a second before she insults James Bond. And then Paula walks in the other room where she hears the door and opens it, and 2 Spectre goons, Vargas and Yanni, jump her, and they subdue her. And so Paula's screaming, and then Fiona walks in again in control.
Don't let her make so much noise. Use the chloroform.
Use the chloroform. She's telling people what to do again. Then Fiona opens an envelope and she sees the pictures Bond took of the underwater parts of the Disco Volante and its underwater hatch.
Yeah. Now, Tom, as an aside, when the British wanted to learn more about a ship that Khrushchev was on, and which was docked in England, MI6 hired a diver, Lionel Crabb, who went down to investigate the propeller and other features that this new ship had, and he was killed. This was 1956. Thunderball was published in 1961. That was a true story. So, now, let's get back to the movie. The scene then cuts to the Junkanoo parade. Bond is there with Domino. So, we'll skip ahead to probably the most famous scene for Fiona Volpe. Scene 6, in the tub, in Bond's suite.
This scene has the best visual gag in the whole James Bond franchise to me. James Bond comes back into his suite. He can tell someone is there because there's luggage, but whose luggage is it? If you look carefully, look on the chair behind where James Bond is standing. And we've added an animation in the video to point this out. You're going to see a pink top and the hat that Fiona was wearing when she confronted Paula. It's easy to miss, but it's a nice touch.
Yeah, If her clothes are on the chair, what might she be wearing now?
Well, Bond then opens the door to the bathroom where we heard some water, and in the bathtub is a naked Fiona Volpe with just a towel on her head. And Fiona looks stunning here. And after a few O's, she says,
Oh,
Hello.
Aren't you in the wrong room, Mr. Bond?
Not from where I'm standing.
great line.
I like how she looks over her own body. And I gotta say, we're doing the same thing. We're looking over her body too here. 'Cause she looked stunning in the bathtub. And then she smirks.
Yeah, that smirk just made me laugh.
Yeah. I mean, Fiona is very comfortable, even in this situation. Her face is stunning. Her body, she looks great and confident nonetheless. And then she says,
since you're here, would you mind giving me something to put on?
what a great setup line for one of the most charming and witty moves by Bond in the movie.
Yeah, really, I think through the whole series, I just love this scene.
Yeah. Bond bends over and picks something up. He hands her her shoes. Fantastic.
That's what she can put on, huh?
She takes them, looks at Bond, then looks at her shoes, and then drops them. I love the sound of him hitting the floor, too. It's just so good. This is an all-time classic. No words, just a fantastic response to Fiona's question, and I love the way Fiona casually just flips the shoes away. The looks on their faces says it all. This is a battle.
I agree. And when we highlight a character, sometimes it isn't what they say in words, but what they say with their face that's worth highlighting. And I think about the character spotlight we did on Odd Job. There wasn't a lot of dialogue there either.
No.
So these scenes where they're having to act without verbalizing is really good. All right. So then she takes the towel off her head and we get some more terrific dialogue.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm very glad to see you again, Mr. Bond.
I'm glad to see you again.
I had a feeling you've been avoiding me.
Well, you see, I had no idea that we were next door neighbors.
Oh, they just moved me down this afternoon. It's extraordinary, isn't it? Almost as if...
As if it was intended.
The dialogue here is terrific, with her with her towel around her, vulnerable yet not, and saying that she was just moved down to this room. While she delivers these lines, you can feel them. You can see her smiles and facial ease while she talks. Shaking her hair around, a shoulder shrug for emphasis that this is a coincidence yet fate. She is, again, in control. Just the body movements here say exactly what she wants to portray. Perfect. Perfect.
Well, and there's an air of sexuality here.
You're
and
kidding.
for her, sexuality and danger come hand in hand with Fiona Volpe.
Yeah.
And this scene is pure spy versus spy. Looks like they're having fun in it, both the actors and the characters.
Yeah.
And just look at their faces. Yeah. Fiona is calm and cool. This is a woman who's promised Largo that she's going to kill James Bond when the time was right. Wow.
Yeah. Now she makes the move on Bond.
Shouldn't you get out those wet clothes?
You'll catch your death of cold.
Now, when Fiona says death, when she promised to kill Bond, you know the words are intended. And she starts to undress Bond. Remember, Bond just escaped the shark pool at Palmyra, so he is wet. Okay. Yeah, she wants him out of the clothes.
The wet clothes.
Wet clothes. Yeah. All right, let's move to scene 7. In bed together. Great scene.
It is a great scene. I mean, Fiona knows what she has to do, and she'll get in bed with Bond to do it. And we get this great shot through a brass headboard of a bed. Bond is talking about getting to the Junkanoo, and that his friends, the Largos, will be there. And perhaps she knows them.
Now look, you know we're going to be too late.
Too late for what?
The Junkanoo. I promised my friends I'd meet them there. Perhaps you know them, the Largos.
Questions. All I get is questions. But the music is gonna go on all night anyhow. Enough to drive you wild.
I love the way this scene goes because this interplay here is fantastic. He's like, perhaps you know them. Well, they both have a Spectre ring on. I think they probably know each other.
Yeah, maybe.
And James and Fiona know where this conversation's heading. Yet they keep playing with each other mentally, verbally, and physically. And Fiona is trying to be playful and sensual at the same time. The way she says wild there is very playful.
She is so sensuous in this scene with her words and her head movements toward Bond. And then she has another great line.
Do you like wild things, Mr. Bond, James Bond?
Wild? You should be locked up in a cage.
Oh, okay. She should be locked up in a cage. And you get the feeling of you're looking into the cage through the brass headboard. It's like, oh, man. I love how she says, Mr. Bond, James Bond. Oh, jeez. She's good. Now, later in the Bond series, Valentin Zurkowski in The World Is Not Enough says Bond, James Bond. Very similar. It is like people are just mocking the way he says his name. Here, listen to that.
Bond, James Bond. Meet Nina and Verushka.
I agree. It's very similar. Now, once again, look at how Fiona is teasing James Bond. I mean, she's really working him hard.
Oh, yeah. All right, Tom. Yeah, working him hard. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna ignore that one, Tom. Well, I guess I didn't. All right. Then he starts to kiss her, and she grabs the brass headboard with both hands as the camera shot is still running through the headboard, and she says,
This bed feels like a cage. Oh, these bars. Do you think I'll be safe?
Oh, my God. Oh, Luciana Paluzzi, you are the best. Oh, my God. And on the word safe, she says it with a bit of a moan, as if something is happening that maybe we cannot see.
What could be happening, Dan?
Very, very hot scene. Her allure not only seduces Bond, but the audience, too. She is captivating.
And I think we can assume what happens next, although we don't see it. It will be referenced later, though.
Yeah. Let's move to scene 8, back at the hotel after the sex scene. All right. A little bit later, Fiona Volpe is getting ready to go to the Junkanoo. And her first line to Bond as she's fixing her hair is...
You made a shocking mess out of my hair, you sadistic brute.
Will you zip me up, please?
Wow. All right. It's a line you could just pass over when you're watching this movie. But if you call it out like we are here, wow. What did Bond do with her hair during their fun time? The imagination is running wild. And she says, you sadistic brute. I love that. You sadistic brute. Those are all strong words. And these words, if true, show that Bond may be less loving of women and more having his way with them, whatever way that is. But sadistic really means this. A sadistic person obtains pleasure from hurting other people and making them suffer physically or mentally. And Fiona's not smiling when she says this. So there might be a little extra hint in here, but she's still feeling in control as she asks Bond to zip her up. It makes you wonder if she was okay with Bond being a little sadistic brute. Brute has its own negative connotations, of course. One who lacks intelligence, insensitivity, or compassion, or worse, is violent or savage. So she uses some words here that really can paint the picture of Bond.
Yeah, I agree. And I think throughout their whole relationship, they've both been a bit sadistic. And now Fiona's wearing this gorgeous blue dress with a blue boa to go to the Junkanoo. And when Bond opens the door to leave with her, the goons are there again. We have Vargas and Yanni again. Yep. So he slams the door, but Fiona has a pistol aimed at him. Taking control again, she strongly says,
And now we can go somewhere for an interesting talk.
Laureen Gibson, who wrote Challenging the Gender Binary in Bond films, Bond Girls, Female Villains, and James, she noted that when she threatens Bond, she's wearing a gown, a contrast between the feminine side and looking beautiful and the vicious side of her, which we have seen and have grown to know. Wow. So that's an interesting twist.
That
So,
is a neat twist.
yeah. So after Bond opens the door, they search him, and Yanni takes Bond's gun out of his holster, leading to another great back and forth dialogue between Bond and Fiona.
You dress quickly too. I didn't see that gun in the mirror.
Not that it matters, but that was under the pillow all the time.
Wow. Bond's great comeback line is a direct hit on Fiona. She didn't know the gun was there. Whoa. So is Bond getting the upper hand here?
Yeah, remember earlier that we said that she wasn't always observant, or she thought she was observant.
Yeah.
Notice that she adroitly turns and looks at the pillow on the bed where they were having sex.
Yeah.
Has she been fooled? That turn, the body language,
Yes.
the look back at Bond after the pillow glance, all just seems natural and perfect. She seemed like she was fooled, and she confirms it.
And when did you find out?
Oh, you're wearing the same ring as Largo.
And Bond shoots another volley of attacks at her, showing his observational skills. Well, you're wearing the same ring as Largo, he says. Of course he saw that. Fiona had just been called out for missing Bond's gun, too. Maybe Bond is better than Fiona. Of course, the gun is on him.
Well, that's true. Now, we saw him look at the ring in the car, and the ring was on the bathroom vanity. So they kind of hit us over the head with this octopus logo ring before this line. And pay attention to her as she looks down at the ring, and they continue their verbal sparring.
It's a ring I like to wear.
Vanity has its dangers.
Vanity, Mr. Bond. Something you know so much about.
Now, I use the word sparring there to set up that clip, as this conversation reminds me of a boxing ring with two fighters just duking it out.
Yeah.
I mean, this is exactly what's happening here. She jabs, he jabs, but so far, there's been no knockout punch.
Yeah, and to continue on that theme, too, which is a good one. Here it comes. James Bond throws an uppercut, immediately followed by a right hand to the temple. When he says it, look at Fiona's reaction. This one stings.
My dear girl, don't flatter yourself. What I did this evening was for king and country. You don't think it gave me any pleasure, do you?
Bam! The first big punch lands. Holy gee.
That is a big punch. And you know what? Bond probably believes all that. He will do whatever he has to do to get his mission successfully completed.
Yeah, but they both do. Their jumping into bed was a power play by both of them. Both Fiona and Bond would hop into bed for king and country. That's what they would do.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. These are two pros who'll do anything to win and seem to be enjoying their repartee. And as we, the viewers of the Thunderball, we're enjoying it too.
Yeah, and the price of failure is very high here. So, yeah, we can dance around the boxing ring with Bond on this one.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. All right. As you said, Tom, watch Fiona here. She is walking away from Bond as this volley hits and then turns back towards him. She looks hurt, but then bounces right back with one of the best scenes in this movie and one of the strongest comebacks of any Bond girl ever, especially the enemy ones he tries to win over, like Pussy Galore and so on. She turns right back towards him and says brilliantly, with force and with strength, like, ha, well, you still lose, Mr. Bond. She whacks him with...
But of course, I forgot your ego, Mr. Bond. James Bond, who only has to make love to a woman, and she starts to hear heavenly choir singing. She repents and immediately returns to the side of right and virtue. But not this one.
I'm not sure either of them are going to get out of this match alive.
That is a fantastic line. I mean, she is true to character. She's not Pussy Galore. She's not changing sides. She has never wavered from her mission. She is never thinking of changing sides. She is never thinking of being won over by Bond. She is the toughest ever that he has come up against. And then she comes back with another punch after strutting up to him with all of the confidence of any woman Bond has ever faced. She straightens his tie, a control move, of course, and she punches again with this.
What a blow it must have been. You having a failure.
As Fiona says this, Fiona leaves the room. She knows she's won this one. Bond, finally after doing the Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope, taking all these punches, says,
Well, you can't win them all.
He's right there. Now, it's a nice try by Bond, but Fiona, with her words and body language, she's the smirks of victory. You're on the mat now, Mr. Bond, and you're down for the count.
Fiona is definitely in control of the goons, too, as she directs them and tells them what to do. Then one last punch to Bond.
Careful, Mr. Bond, now. Careful.
In other words, don't try anything stupid. I have you right where I want you. The "you have been a failure" line from a minute ago echoes here.
Yes.
She is in control.
Yeah. All right, scene 9, the Junkanoo. All right, let's move on to the last part of Thunderball with Fiona Volpe. They have Bond in the car, and they get caught in the Junkanoo traffic. Once again, she's in charge and barks out instructions to the goons.
Get through to Palmyra and tell them we'll be held up by the Junkanoo.
Right. She is just perfect in every one of these scenes. Absolutely believable, absolutely determined, and unwavering. And she is not falling for Bond or his womanizing. She is the power broker here. I love this about the way Luciana Paluzzi played Fiona. Perfectly. The character is not going to crack, and it is refreshing to see. As she is as determined as Bond. He has met his match with Fiona Volpe. Now, Bond is seemingly trapped, but we know Bond. He is in their car, in the back seat, with his nemesis, Fiona.
We've often asked the question during our podcast, why is James Bond still alive? I mean, a word out to the villains here. Just shoot him! They know who he is, and he can only make trouble for them if he's still alive.
Yeah, why are they doing that? That's true. But
I mean, she said she was going to kill him. Why are they keeping him around?
I know. Maybe she wants it to be spectacular. But at the moment, he has no way out. And then a drunk comes up to the car with a bottle of liquor. Bond sees an opportunity. That's what good spies do. See an opportunity and develop it. So remember, Bond never gives up, does he? Well, he did know time to die, but that's a different story. Anyway, not here.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here, and this is a test of how closely you watch that scene. Kind of like we said, Fiona's clothes were on that chair behind Bond.
Yes.
What was in the bottle that this drunk has? You don't see the name, but what you do see is distinctive.
There's liquor in the bottle. I didn't notice. I didn't notice a label or anything.
All right, go on. Let's go on.
All right. Well, so as the drunk waves the bottle into the car, and Fiona happens to be lighting a cigarette at the same time, after she sternly tells Bond,
"Don't you try anything now."
She looks a bit nervous since they're stuck. Bam! Bond seizes the opportunity by putting together flame and alcohol.
Not a good combination.
A flammable diversion, long enough to duck out of the car and escape. Well, at least for now. Bond runs through the Junkanoo, as we know, and he's being chased by two of the Spectre goons. Fiona and her goons are chasing him throughout the parade. And, it's hard to chase somebody and follow somebody through a bunch of people. But Fiona spies the blood trail that Bond is leaving behind because they shot at him and they hit him, apparently, right? Bond seems to be getting away. Oh, okay. Before we move on, Tom, you never told me. What? Do you know what was in the bottle? Or now that I'm thinking about it?
Yeah, I think I do. It was a bottle of Bacardi rum. You can tell if you look closely at the label. You can't read the brand name.
Oh, I couldn't read anything, no.
But that bottle was a Bacardi bottle.
You know Bacardi. I know that. Okay, let's move on. The next time we see Fiona Volpe is at the Kiss Kiss Club.
This is Fiona's last scene.
Let's go to scene 10,
yeah.
The Kiss Kiss Club.
So we see Bond, after getting slightly wounded, he makes his way to the Kiss Kiss Club. But there, across a sea of people in a night scene, illuminated by outside party lights, it is a beautiful scene. It's well shot, and he sees the two goons that were chasing him. He grabs a beautiful woman and starts to dance with her, maybe to blend in more. But I do have a few trivia questions about this actor. Who was Bond dancing with, and in what other James Bond movie did she appear? Oh, and what was her husband's connection to Thunderball?
Oh wow! All right, I think I know part of this one. She's Diana Diana Hartford, I think, right?
Yeah.
She's been in, I think she was in 2 Bond movies. After Thunderball, she was in one of the card players in Casino Royale.
Yeah, I like how in Casino Royale they brought some of the actors back who were in earlier Bond movies. A lot of them in that casino scene.
Yeah, which was cool. I liked that too. I'm not sure about her husband's connection though.
Yeah, he owned Paradise Island where they filmed this.
Yeah, that comes in handy.
Yeah, he's actually credited in the credits too. So.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, let's get back to Fiona. While Bond and the woman are dancing, a hand slaps Bond on the shoulder, and it's Fiona saying,
May I cut in?
You should have told me your wife was here.
"Oh, all right." They found Bond again. She's good. Her face again says it all. Determined, and once again, in control. Bond escapes, and then they catch him again. So look it, they're good.
Yeah,
well,
now
not too good in letting him escape, but
they found him again.
They found him again. They're looking good.
And I like the "you should have told me your wife was here" line.
Yeah.
I mean, James Bond and Fiona Volpe have been sparring the whole movie, except when they're in bed.
Yeah.
And that's one way movies show married couples, right? Yeah. They kind of bicker at each other and then they hop in bed. So for me, that line is perfect here.
There's some good banter going back and forth here between Bond and Fiona again, with Fiona telling Bond not to try to escape. Of course, Bond has a quip for her.
Do you come here often?
It's no good you trying to escape, Mr. Bond.
I don't want to escape. Strange as it may seem, I've grown accustomed to your face.
That's great. And as he says face, the camera shows us Fiona's face. Good camera work. And for the very first time, she almost seems amused. She half smiles. Look at her face in this scene. She half smiles as though she thought what Bond said was kind of funny. Notice she moves her head to the side as if to say, "I'm surprised by what you say." And she smiles. I like it. So
yeah, I did too. Now, Dan, you just said something about I've grown accustomed to her face. And you were telling me something about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice callback to the 1956 stage and movie musical My Fair Lady, of course. In that movie, Professor Higgins sings the song, "I've Grown Accustomed to Your Face," as the last song before the reprise at the end. So that was 1956. So here, as we get ready to wrap up the James Bond and Fiona Volpe battle, we get that line. It's just perfect, I thought.
I think that's a nice catch. Okay, so James Bond is always looking around to spot the guys with the guns chasing him while he dances. Fiona seems to be in control, and Bond is trying to wrestle control from her. Fiona, in her weakest moment yet, tries to wrest control back and says,
"Why don't you come with us quietly?"
Because she's trying to figure out where her goons are, and she asks for Bond to come quietly. It's not like she has control over him here.
And there is nothing quiet about the scene. The drums are banging, and we see the gun pointing through the curtains, aimed at Bond's back as he dances. But then Bond sees it too. A stroke of luck? Maybe. What will Fiona do now?
Well, we know. As he fires, Bond has just spun her around, so it was her back that was towards the gunman. And yes, Fiona Volpe, through no real fault of her own, unless somehow she knew that her gunman would shoot just as Bond was going to spin her around. Well, Fiona gets hit here.
Yep. This is amazing on a few fronts, but I have questions. First, how did he time that so perfectly? And because bullets are kind of fast. And why didn't the bullet just pass through her and hit James Bond as well? Maybe the low caliber bullet, maybe, I don't know. And why was there no blood on his fingers after he said this famous Bond line?
One of my friends sits this one out. She's just dead.
I mean, this is a classic James Bond line and a great scene. Those were great questions, Dan, that we don't have answers for.
No.
And unfortunately for us Fiona Volpe fans, the last we see of her is her slumped dead in a chair at the Kiss Kiss Club. I do like how her goons, instead of shooting Bond, look nervous, like, what will Largo say? They killed Fiona. We know Largo has a very short fuse, so they're probably right to think this way. Arrivederci, Fiona.
There you go. Now, Luciana Paluzzi was fabulous playing Fiona throughout her 10 scenes. She captivates us with her beauty, her steadfastness to the mission, her unwavering support for Spectre, and not falling for Bond's womanizing as other women have, and is an absolute highlight to Thunderball. It was excellent casting, and it worked out great that they didn't cast Luciana as Domino. Claudine Auger was perfect in that role, and no one could have played Fiona Volpe better than Luciana Paluzzi.
Yeah, I would say Luciana makes Thunderball a much better movie than it would have been. I mean, remember, her character wasn't in the novel.
Yeah.
And the writers did an excellent job bringing up her character to light as we saw her character revealed to us, with something added in each scene. And Luciana played it all to perfection. Yes. She deserves our character spotlight for making Thunderball a wonderful movie.
Absolutely. All right, let's look a little bit at Luciana Paluzzi and into her life. She was born in Rome and it was in many movies in Italy. She had an uncredited part in Three Coins in the Fountain, 1954, and appeared in many movies under the name Luciana Paluzzi. Now, interestingly enough, she appeared in No Time to Die, not the Bond movie, but the 1957 movie, which was also known as Tank Force, with Victor Mature. And the director was Terrence Young. And we know Terrence Young directed Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Thunderball.
Yes, and we had the honor of interviewing Luciana last December. You can find that interview on our podcast page or on your favorite podcast app. It was season 6, episode 285, and it was released on December 10th, 2024. It was a fascinating interview. We're not going to cover everything about Luciana Paluzzi here. We'll just direct you to that interview to hear more.
Yeah. All right, man, this was fun. Luciana Paluzzi was a great Fiona Volpe. Well, that's a wrap of our character spotlight of Fiona Volpe, played by Luciana Paluzzi. All right, this has been Dan.
And Tom.
Of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Subscribe to our show and our YouTube channel as well. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you spending time with us.